Right, welcome everybody to this afternoon's Strategic Planning Committee. Before we start, if I can remind people to put the phones on silent or switch them off. And first things first, as it's start of a new council year, can I just make sure that everybody on the committee has done their training? Yeah, right, because in the past we've had to send 2 people home. Right. Membership of the committee is as printed. Minutes of the previous meeting, can we agree that they're a true record? Yeah. Any declarations of interest? I'll start off with Councillor Sokol.
None, Chair.
Councillor Crook?
None, Chair.
Councillor Pattison?
None, Chair.
Councillor Pinnock?
None, Chair.
Councillor Thompson?
None, Chair.
Councillor Armour?
None, sir.
And myself, none. Right, item 4, this is a public meeting. Item 5, any public questions?
None received.
No. Any deputations or petitions?
None.
Item 7, site visit was carried out at the George Hotel this morning. Item 8, another site visit at Somerset Road, Almonbury. Item 9, site visit carried out at Scar Lane, Milnes Bridge. Now we're on to the planning applications. First application up is number 11. This is page 15, and it's the George Hotel, Huddersfield. Callum.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Callum Harrison, Senior Planning Officer and Case Officer for application 2023-9024 for the partial demolition of listed building to facilitate refurbishment and extension of the George Hotel to form 91-room hotel with ancillary uses. The application site is formed of the existing historic George Hotel building and measures circa 0.5 hectares in size. The site lies in a very prominent position in Huddersfield Town Centre at the corner of John William Street and Railway Street. The site also lies adjacent to Huddersfield Railway Station and the King's Head Public House. To the immediate north and west of the site lies the existing railway station car park. To the south of the site fronts onto St George's Square, an area of public realm which is occasionally used for social and event space. There are also a number of trees within the public realm which are considered to be of good value, and they add character to the surrounding area. The hotel itself has occupied the site in various forms since the mid-19th century and is Grade 2 star listed. The hotel has undergone several renovations during its lifetime, with additional wings added in the 1870s and 1930s, with additional stories added in the 1960s. In terms of the built form, as can be seen on screen, the existing building forms a triangular shape with a central external courtyard area. The building is constructed from ashlar stone with rusticated stone at the ground floor level. The main building, which faces towards St George's Square, is 4 stories high with attic rooms set within a slate mansard roof. The 3-storey wing facing John William Street is a simpler design but follows a similar theme to the main facade. The northwest facing wing, which it faces the railway station, is a later addition constructed in cut hammer dressed stonework with a top hung casement windows and a flat roof. The design is of a mill style and is considered to detriment the other 2 wings in terms of heritage. As such, Historic England removed the wing from the listing approximately a year ago. Aside from the design, the George Hotel has played a significant role in the history of Huddersfield through being the birthplace of rugby league in 1895. Given this heritage, the hotel is considered to be of significant local and international importance. The slide on screen now shows the existing and proposed southern elevations which face onto St George's Square. This elevation would remain largely unaltered and just refurbished. There is no material change in scale or mass into this elevation, and the retention and refurbishment of this principal elevation is strongly supported by officers in Historic England. The 3D visualisation of this elevation shows that the restoration of this elevation would clearly have a significant positive impact on the street scene and town centre. The proposed eastern elevation, which fronts onto John William Street, would see the retention of the building's historic facade, with whilst most of the structure behind would be demolished and replaced. The eastern wing would also see the building height increased by 1 storey on this elevation and extended to take in the current area of incidental landscaping to the north of the site. It should be noted that that consideration was given to the retention of this wing. However, as detailed in the submitted structural report, the historic structure could not support any additional loading and strain. In this case, the design is considered to be high quality, the scale and mass in respect to southern elevation. As demonstrated by the visualisation on screen, the proposed east wing and the retention of the facade mitigates the impact to the townscape at street level. Development Management Officers, Historic England and KC Conservation Design all agree that due to the severe structural defects that there is compelling justification for the proposed approach to the redevelopment on this wing, outweighing any harm of removing the historic structure. As such, the proposed design to the east wing is considered to accord with Local Plan Policy LP24 and Chapters 12 and 13 of the MPPF with regard to design and heritage. The western elevation would arguably go through the most extensive changes. It should be noted again that the existing wing on this side was removed from the Historic England listing due to the poor standard of the additions and alterations conducted during the 1950s and 60s. Alike both wings, this elevation will be 3-storey with an additional storey in the roof space. The proposed west elevation has a design which appears active. New massing also links into the roofscape across the southern elevation. The connection between the new western elevation and refurbished south elevation has been set back to differentiate and express the massing, a note back to the historic development of this elevation. Overall, the western elevation would respect the unchanged southern elevation with regard to scale and massing in accordance with Local Plan Policies LP24 and LP35. It would also respect the setting of the train station by virtue of the same reasons. On screen now are the proposed floor plans. The 3 lower levels, which are shown on screen, show the proposed public bar and restaurant, gym, banqueting and conference facilities. Whilst being ancillary to the hotel, they offer some versatility to the building which would allow for those close by as well as those from afar to benefit from the proposed development. For accessibility and viability reasons, the ground floor and first floor also host some bedrooms. The upper 3 floors would host the majority of the accommodation. The 91 guest bedrooms will be circa 20 square metres in size and will be equipped with ensuite bathrooms. The size and finish of these rooms would mean the accommodation will be of a mid to high level in terms of hotel star ratings. In terms of the site layout, a service bay will be created to the west of the site for deliveries and collections to and from the site. Waste collection will be from John William Street as existing. The existing retaining wall between the hotel and the car park would also be lowered to the ground level to enable better use of the car park and opens up the visibility of the site. These reconfigurations allow for the better function of the site than it had during its previous use. Since the initial concept of the redevelopment, the applicant has worked very closely with the LPA, KC Conservation Design and Historic England. In assessing this application, officers consider that there are several public benefits relating from the proposal which carry their own weight. Firstly, the proposal will bring a disused, at-risk Grade 2 star listed building back into use as a hotel, continuing the original purpose of the building. The hotel use is also considered to be the optimum viable use for the listed building, whereby the application proposes this in a manner which will preserve much of the historic fabric of the building. Economically, the proposed development would create 20 to 30 full-time equivalent jobs, whilst meeting an identified need for a better standard of accommodation in Huddersfield Town Centre. The development would also bring investment into Huddersfield Town through an increase in tourism accommodation and events facilities, whilst opening up further Huddersfield blueprint regeneration opportunities. The scheme also provides a substantial biodiversity net gain of 15%. As with all decisions within building conservation, it comes down to weighing the requirements of bringing the building back into use against the particular aspects of heritage significance that are affected. In this case, every effort has been made to retain many elements that contribute to its significance. KC Development Management, KC Conservation Design and Historic England are all in agreement that this is the best conservation solution for the building given its significance. The applicant is also committed to delivering a high quality development, and through the use of the conditions set out in the officer report, the LPA can ensure that development is completed to the utmost standard. As such, subject to the said conditions set out in section 12 of the officer report, the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Callum. With two speakers, one of them is on holiday, but he's done a written submission, and I believe
Yeah.
Richard's reading it out.
Yeah. Chair, just if I may, before we start that, can I just clarify, we've got Councillor Cooper, I saw you arrive. Are you wanting to speak on any matter?
Yeah, on the veterinary hospital at Somerset Road.
Okay, that's great, thank you. Okay, so this is a submission by Councillor Graham Turner. Chair, thank you for taking this written submission for today's Planning Committee meeting. I'm sorry I can't be here in person, but I'm out of the country on holiday. As you well know, the George Hotel is probably Huddersfield's most iconic building. It's certainly the most well known. It's also well documented that for many years this iconic gateway building was left to rot and decay. Something therefore had to be done before it got beyond repair and was lost forever, so the council stepped in and purchased the George. Research done previously by the council had determined that there was an untapped demand for a quality hotel in Huddersfield. The George being the obvious candidate to meet this demand, given its historic use as a hotel and its prime location in the town centre and its proximity to the train station. By using Heritage Action Zone funding, it has been possible to make the building safe and wind and watertight. This has been a significant challenge given the state the building was in. But that work is now just about finished, and thanks must go to the team of highly skilled craftspeople, architects, consultants, and our officer team who have carried out this vital work. As you will have seen on your site visit, the work that is visible has already improved the building and started to bring it back to life. We now seek planning permission to move to the next phase in the rebirth of the George and to enable it to have a long-term secure future as a thriving, successful hotel, bringing much needed jobs and helping our local economy to grow. The removal of the rear extension that is not in keeping with the existing building and the building of a new, sympathetic, modern extension will allow the hotel to have the 90+ rooms it needs to be a viable hotel. We now have a management agreement with the multinational Radisson Red Group, who will operate the hotel on behalf of the council. The ownership of the George will remain with the council and will become a valuable addition to the council's property assets. Having Radisson Red as our partner demonstrates the need for a quality hotel in Huddersfield and that the George is the right building to deliver a high-quality hotel. The application you have before you today has been developed by working with specialist architects, Historic England, conservation officers and many other partners, and protects the historic nature of the building, but it also gives the future it deserves. We need a quality hotel in Huddersfield, and we need to breathe new life into the George. So members of the committee, I ask you to support the officer recommendation, approve this application, and help preserve this historic building for future generations and enable it to once again be a focal point of Huddersfield. That's it, Chair.
Next speaker is Simon Taylor.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I think a lot of my comments will echo those of Councillor Turner. You have in front of you today a very clear report and update. I think the report covers all of the material planning matters with a clear recommendation for approval. So from an applicant perspective, we can't add any more at this stage to that assessment. What I can emphasise for today, though, is that this is an important proposal, not just for the building itself, but also for the town centre as a whole. And the solution before you, as Councillor Turner pointed out in his written statement, has taken many months to arrive at, and is sort of a combination of hard work from the project team and collaboration with Historic England and the council's planning and heritage experts. And this collaboration has proved to be fruitful and refreshing on such an important heritage asset building. Ultimately, we are trying to achieve a sustainable long-term solution for the building, but also one that recognises that heritage importance and is also attractive to a hotel operator going forward. And as Councillor Turner pointed out in his statement, that is the Radisson Group. We feel we've achieved this aim, and that's reflected a lot in the positive comments, both from the officers' reports, but also from Historic England in their recent press release, and also the update circulated ahead of this meeting. My job today is obviously made a lot easier by the officer recommendation, but I do feel I need to emphasise how important that a positive decision today is for the continued journey for the George Hotel. At your site visit, you would have seen the fruits of a restoration programme that has been ongoing for a number of months, but that really is only the beginning, and it is this application that is the key to breathing life back into the building and making it part of a thriving town centre again. Just as important, though, from our perspective, is that this proposal is an important stepping stone for the blueprint, which in the long term will transform Huddersfield Town Centre. A successful outcome today for the George Hotel cements decisions made by this committee on the cultural heart recently, and also the work that is evident out in the town centre at Kingsgate, New Street, University's National Health Innovation Campus, and also the Trinity West site, all of which will collaborate and contribute to the transformation of the town as a whole. So on that basis, I therefore hope you can accept the officer recommendation and approve the application today. So thank you very much, Chair.
Members, it's over to you. Mohan.
I start, Mr. Chair. Yeah. Chair, we all know the George Hotel is one of the very prominent building and in a prominent position in our town centre next to the Leicester Building, railway station and other building. Yeah? And it's the birthplace of our Rugby National League, and which is started in 1895 and 1905 as well. Chair, we are very lucky. The council stepped in to buy this building, yeah? And they saved it from the previous owner, who bought it in 2013, I believe 13 or 14, and the previous owner, let it run down by his own greed. He did not try to improve the building. So we are very lucky the council stepped in to buy this building, yeah. Also, I was reading paragraph on page 30, 1025 in the report by officer, which is it also recognized that the hotel would be retained by the council for at least 12 years. That's good. Post-development, the preference operation would be under a hotel management agreement. That we must appreciate that. Yeah. So we have some hand in the we won't let it run down again as the previous owner had done. Chair, I read in the report, and the new owner, who was Simon Taylor mentioned, would be Radisson Red. When he take over, he will create some jobs. With jobs are 20 to 30 jobs. That's one. And I will say in the end, I know that there is some material changes on the side wall of the George Hotel. The wall is going to be replaced with the well-designed wall, but I don't know the material will be same as the George Hotel stone has been used. Yeah. Chair, I think even the historic England heritage, they all are an agreement. And this one, the council is going to improve this building. And I hope this building will last another 100 or 150 years. Yeah. Thank you. I'm in full support of this application.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I was very impressed with our site visit this morning, which does show you how how useful it is to go and see buildings and to appreciate how they sit in the streetscape or landscape, depending on what we're talking about. One of the things, however, that I was sort of slightly alarmed about was the state of some of the stonework on the outside of the building. And whilst I appreciate that some of that can be conserved so as not to cause a problem, I would like some assurance that there is no or little danger of any further stonework sort of falling off the side of the building, because that would spoil the appearance, obviously, and of what is a really spectacular building. I'm fully in support of the redevelopment, but I'd just like some assurance, or perhaps it's part of the listed building consent. I don't know. That may be the case, because it's something to do with how you're actually going to do it. But I wouldn't want the appearance of the building to be spoilt by any deficiencies in the stonework, which has obviously happened over 150 years, but has clearly got to be looked at. Thank you, Chair.
So I did ask that this morning. Callum?
Yes, through you, Chair. You are correct in that a lot of that will be covered off in the listed building consent application. Now, in terms of making sure that the stone is acceptable and does retain, the work will be conducted in a sympathetic way. That will be assured through the listed building consent application and all the conditions on it. The applicant did say that it's a careful job. So in terms of taking down the western wing, that is not demolition, it is removal, careful removal of that stone. Some of that stone may be reused elsewhere in the development potentially as well, or if not, it does have a high value to the stone merchants who want to keep it in a good state anyway. So the actual works will be carefully done and sympathetic to the building. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move approval of the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. I think my only concern on this project is the potential runaway of cost. I mean, the plans look admirable. The building deserves the work to be done to it. It's a beautiful building. But, you know, my memory of this building is that, you know, that the council did sell this off at a bargain basement price, bought it back at a premium. So it has been a money pit for us for quite some time. And I just hope that the project management and the costings of this have been well worked out and delivered on time and on budget. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, one can only sort of praise the work that's already been done so far. And I mean, I shared Councillor Pinnock's concern about the state of some of the stonework, but was assured that from the outside that what had to be replaced has been, on the site visit this was, and the stone that was left in a damaged state, or it looks damaged, was safe. But that is part of the history. It's an old building. If we replaced every single bit of stone, well, we're not building a new building, are we? We're restoring a building, which is the same with the, of course, the new extension. So, yes, it's a shame. I understand from talking to on site that it was actually basically shoddy Victorian builders that have created some of the problems that we're having to deal with now. But that's nothing new. I just hope, I mean, I think a wonderful job has been done so far. I expect and hope to see as good a job done inside as outside. I think we really do not, need, as has been said, this building, this new hotel, to breathe life back into the town centre and to bring us in line with other comparable towns right across the country. We have been sorely lacking decent hotel accommodation for many, many, many years. So I'm happy to second the application.
Any more comments? I've got to say, this is a building that I've followed a lot since this committee started. Seeing how it's gone from something that were quite a nice building to something that were a mess by somebody buying it who didn't have a clue what they were doing. And Woodall Council stepped in again. I do think it's going to be a real jewel in Huddersfield Town Centre, this, and it should be as well. So it has been moved and seconded. Moved by Councillor Pinnock, seconded by Councillor Patterson.
Just Chair, I don't know, did you indicate you wanted to speak, Councillor Crook?
Yeah, sorry,
Ah.
I wasn't sure if you went through. Sorry, it's my first meeting. Yeah, I'd like to just quickly say a word.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Chair. I think it's really positive that Kirklees have been able to work with partners to save this building, and I think it will be an enormous asset to the town. One point that did concern me was that, despite this being part of the officer negotiation with the developer, provision of cycle storage has been omitted from the final design, and I wondered if it was possible for us to impose a condition that even minimal cycle storage for staff would be part of the final development. The added benefit to that was that it would encourage staffing from local communities rather than people coming in. So that was just a small comment I wanted to make. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Just dealing with that comment first, Councillor. Yeah, the cycle storage, it could be conditioned. From my understanding from talking to highways officers is that we would probably need a provision of for about 6 cycles. So rather than look at location, if we attach a condition and secure details after the decision, then that would be the way to deal with it. And going back on Councillor Thompson's point also about the budget, obviously we haven't got details of budget for the planned application, and that isn't really a planning matter. However, there is information in the report that summarises the viability, and I think the crux of the matter is about securing its optimum viable reuse, both from a heritage perspective and also for the asset for the council. Thank you, Chair, that's all.
Right. Right. We will go to a vote. Richard.
Thank you, Chair. Right, so this has been moved by Councillor Pinnock and seconded by Councillor Patterson for approval as outlined in the submitted report, with the additional condition in relation to the cycle storage for staff. So if I can start please with Councillor Sokol.
For.
Councillor Crook.
Yes, support.
Councillor Patterson.
For.
Councillor Pinnock.
For.
Councillor Thompson.
For.
Councillor Armour.
For.
Councillor Hall.
For.
So that's unanimous, so the application is approved.
Right. Next item is item 12, and it's page 55. This is land south of Railway Lane, Scar Lane, Milnesbridge, Huddersfield.
I think there's going to be a slight legislative change over here.
Yeah.
The officers I'm talking about.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Kate Chew, the case officer for this application, which is 2022/91789, and this is at land south of the railway line Scar Lane in Milnesbridge. And this application is seeking to erect 4 light industrial units and 10 storage units within the site. So this is the application site here. It's accessed from Scar Lane to the south, and it is located adjacent to the old railway yard and other commercial uses here and here. There are also residential properties to the south, and running along the northern boundary of the site is a railway line, and this line to the far east crosses over a Grade 2 listed viaduct, this location here. The application site itself is located wholly within a priority employment area and falls within Milnesbridge Conservation Area. So I'll just run through some photographs of the site. So this picture on the right is me standing at the entrance looking into the site, and this one on the left is flipped around me looking outside. So as you can see, it's quite overgrown, although when we went to site today, it does look like there has been some work on site to kind of trim some of these hedges, etc. So this is a photograph showing the existing coal chutes on site. They are not listed, and they had to be repaired and retained to allow 10 storage units to be placed within the structure. This will be done by incorporating storage containers loaded one on top of the other, but I'll show you this in more detail in a moment. These photos are taken out of the site towards a residential dwellings located on Royal Terrace. And as you'll see in a moment, Unit 1 is proposed to run alongside number 18 Royal Terrace, which is this property here. It will run in line with the existing terrace, and this location wasn't originally submitted. It was originally submitted to run along the back garden, but obviously that would mean that the bulk and massing of the unit would impact on the neighbouring residential amenity. So following consultation, we did receive 2 comments from neighbouring properties, and they requested that unit be located further to the east to remove some of that bulk away. But following discussions with the applicant and agent, it was agreed that we would flip the unit, and that would reduce the impact and obviously run in line with the residential property and be better in terms of both visual and residential amenity. Whilst it is noted, and you might just be able to see it, there is a window in this side elevation. This is a non-habitable room, and the window can still be open. On balance, we've accepted that it would be acceptable on this occasion, and a similar conclusion was drawn within the previously approved 2019 outline application, which I will discuss further in a moment. There's a separation distance between that window and Unit 1 of about 0.8 metres. So this photo shows looking up towards the upper level of the site. So you can see how there's a bit of slope and it plateaus at the top. Units 5 and 6 are proposed to be constructed up here, and they'll be single storey in height. The railway line, as mentioned previously, runs along the back here. So these photos show the views to the west of the site towards the old railway goods yard. This site sits at a higher ground level to the application site and is of a similar nature in that it is currently used for commercial and industrial purposes. In 2019, a similar scheme under an outline application was brought to Strategic Committee and approved on the 1st of August 2019. This scheme sought approval of scale, appearance and access with landscape as a reserved matter. This permission has obviously expired now, but you can see we have approved something similar here in the past. Moving on to the proposed site plan, here you can see it's a similar layout to the 2019 scheme, although the coal chutes are now openly visible, which is welcomed. An extra unit has been placed on the upper level, but the amount of built form at lower level has reduced. Parking has also been removed directly adjacent to the garden of number 18 Royal Terrace, which is here. So looking at the lower level, we've got units 1, 2 and, well, unit 2 is separated into units 2, 3 and 4. We've got the 10 storage units in the corner and unit 1. So you can see the relationship unit 1 would have with 18 Royal Terrace, and unit 2 is to be divided, as I've said, into small units which would be perfect for start-up businesses. We will now look at there was sufficient space for turning vehicles and parking for 5 cars. So looking at unit 1 again, this is adjacent to number 18, and you can see here the relationship it would have. There's matching gable heights, and whilst there is a difference in land levels, the bulk of this structure is stepped back from the garden area and runs in line with the existing rear elevation. Unit 2 is the largest building in terms of footprint on the site. It is single-storey in height and is located along the western boundary of the site. As you will see throughout, the plans for all 4 units are to be finished in large timber and cladding, reclaimed stone and anthracite profile metal roofing. They are quite simple and linear in design and reflective of most modern industrial units. 10 storage units are proposed within the existing coal chutes, and here you can see how the storage containers are to be stacked on top of one another. They will be accessed by a stairway located here. The shipping containers are to be located independently within the existing coal chutes, with each storage container having a floor area of 19 square metres. They are to be finished in matte black, with windows and doors also being in black to match. Making our way up to the upper level of the site, Units 5 and 6 are to be single-storey, and the majority of the parking is proposed on this level, with a total of 23 car parking spaces proposed throughout the site. Unit 5 again is quite a standard design. You can see the relationship the building would have with Unit 6 and Unit 1. Same again, Unit 6 is very similar, and you can see the relationship it has with Unit 5 here. So looking at the proposed sections of the site, when looking north, this is how the site will appear. And we have the coal chutes and Unit 1 and 2 on the lower level. And then up at the top we have Units 5 and 6. You can also see the parking arrangements on the upper level. Looking east, we can see the relationship between the coal chutes and Unit 5, and again the relationship with Unit 1 and number 18. Moving on to the proposed access arrangements at the site, the proposal seeks to utilise the existing access onto Scar Lane. This is opposite Britannia Road to the south. The access onto Scar Lane is to be improved to facilitate the proposed intensification of use. This includes it being widened to a minimum of 6 metres and the creation of a 2.4 by 40 metre visibility display at the site entrance exit. The Council's highway officers have raised no objections to the scheme, given that the gross floor area to be provided, and therefore the traffic generation that comes with that, would be reduced when compared to the previous 2019 approval, and that the layout and access improvement from Scar Lane are the same as previous. They do, however, request that highway conditions relating to the submission of a Stage 1 safety audit and designer's response, a schedule that means of access for construction traffic, and a requirement that areas indicated for parking should be marked and laid out before the development is brought into use. The applicant has also provided a landscaping scheme whereby it is noted that a total of 9 trees are to be removed from the site, with 13 replacement silver birch trees proposed throughout. The Council's trees officer noted that the trees removed are low quality and their loss will be balanced against the proposed use of the site. In terms of boundary treatments, a 1.8 metre high green palisade fence is proposed around the site boundary, with Amco car barriers proposed to the south of Unit 1, which is here, and between Units 5 and 6. Whilst we do not have any plans of what the external appearance of these barriers could be, we could condition this. To conclude, the proposal seeks to provide employment-generating uses within an existing priority employment area, and therefore is acceptable in principle. The proposed design, scale and layout of the units is deemed to be logical and appropriate, given the proposed use of the site, and any issues arising in terms of residential amenity are felt to be appropriately mitigated by conditions. Furthermore, no objections have been raised from consultees, subject to conditions which are outlined at the end of the committee report. Officers therefore recommend approval of this application. Thank you, Chair.
No speakers, so members, it's over to you. Mohan.
Sorry, I forgot. Thank you, Carol. Yeah. It's a priority employment area, yeah. It's in local priority. The area, I could not go site visit this morning, but I've been site visit before that when the application came to strategic. I know the area very well. At the moment, it's overgrown with bushes and other. I think the proposed for industrial unit and storage, I think is acceptable. Yeah, we need that. There's not many objection on there, and nearby neighbors or houses, I think there was one objection on the overshadow one of the unit. I think being moved away. Yeah, am I right? Yeah. So I think it's a straightforward. I move the officer recommendation to approve. Thank you.
Councillor Armour.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I know the area quite well, and essentially Millsbridge is something of an industrial village. It's a rugged northern workshop area. I think this is a good application. It makes good use of unused land, and it will, can't always say this about industrial units, but it will actually improve the look of the land in my view. I'm happy to second the recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor Patterson.
Yes, just to say that when we saw it this morning, I do remember it when we saw it before we gave outline permission, and it has been, as Katie says, cleared up since she took those photos, and some of the vegetation cut back. But that gave you you could see what could be done with this site. And looking at the plans here for the individual units, they do look good. I'm glad to see that the coal chutes will be used, not just sort of preserved, but actually used, really. I mean, it's a funny use, but it's good to see that will mean that they will last a bit longer, probably, anyway. So, no, I'm happy. It was a good application, and I'm happy to, well, it's already been moved and seconded, but I'm happy to agree with it.
Anybody else? Councillor Pinnock.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to agree with what's been said, I was particularly impressed when we were looking at the design of the units. It seems to me they're not your usual sort of throw up a few bits of metal and stone. They look quite quite rustic in a way. At least that's how it comes over. And you said they were timber. Yes, well that's a plus in my opinion, because it doesn't make it look so heavily industrial. I can put it like that. So I think it's very good all round.
Any more? Just one thing that were mentioned this morning when we were there were quite a lot of wood chippings, to say the least. The only concern I've got is that the yard area would not be used for something like this, because I'm pretty sure we'd get a lot of complaints from neighbours playing early about noise. Is there anything that we can condition about anything like that going on or not?
I mean, environmental health, we don't know who the end users are going to be, so it is kind of a punt in the dark. We just know the class they're going to be in. But environmental health have asked for a noise management plan to be submitted before works are undertaken, so at least it gives us a bit of reassurance about what's going to be there and noise levels, etc.
Okay, it's been moved, it's been seconded. We'll go to a vote.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. So it's been moved by Councillor Sokol, seconded by Councillor Armour for approval as outlined in the submitted report. So Councillor Sokol.
For.
Councillor Crook.
For.
Councillor Patterson.
For.
Councillor Pinnock.
For.
Councillor Thompson.
For.
Councillor Armour.
For.
Councillor Hall.
For.
So that's unanimous. Application is approved.
Thank you. On that note, we'll do a 2-minute break. Right, we're ready to go for part 2. So this is page 77, and it's Woodhouse Hall Road, Fartown, Huddersfield. It should be Katie, but it's Lucy Taylor.
Yes.
I remembered. So yours, Lucy.
Thank you, Chair. I am Lucy Taylor, presenting this application, reference number 2023-90853, on behalf of Case Officer Katie Chu. The application seeks permission for the erection of a catering pod within the school grounds at North Huddersfield Trust School in Fartown. The application has come to Strategic Committee because the site is located upon land allocated as urban green space and therefore would result in a departure from the Kirklees local plan. The applicant has outlined that the proposed catering pod is required to facilitate the operation of North Huddersfield Trust School and that it would enhance education provisions by supporting the development of the established school use. For context, since opening in 2011, there has already been a steady growth rate in students attending the facility, and the school has now been selected to provide additional pupil places, which would result in the requirement for an additional 5 classrooms, which form part of a separate planning application at the site. With this influx in additional students, there is a need for additional catering facilities to be provided on site, hence this submission for the erection of a catering pod. This is the location plan. The red box shows the proposed position of the catering pod within the grounds of the school. As you can see, it is to be set relatively centrally within the school grounds and is to be surrounded by existing built form. These photos are taken from within the school grounds and show the location for the catering pod, which would be erected on part of this grassed area shown here. In conjunction with the erection of the catering pod, a small portion of the land is to be paved in concrete paving flags to allow a solid surface for it to sit. As you can see on the photographs, the site is currently used as an outdoor seating area. Much of this space is to remain in use as an outdoor seating area following the erection of the catering pod. Surrounding the site, you can see that there are a number of existing buildings. These photographs further demonstrate the sitting of the proposed catering pod within the existing buildings at the school, showing the surrounding area when looking to the east of the catering pod. For context, the grassed area is located just to the right of these stairs. This slide shows the existing and proposed site plans. As well as showing the proposed location of the catering pod, this plan also shows the proposed paved area around it. This slide shows the proposed floor plans and elevations of the catering pod. It is to have a floor space of approximately 7.8 square metres and a ridge height of 2.6 metres. The catering pod would be faced in a purpose-designed wrap with a GRP roof and white UPVC fascias and rainwater goods. In addition, a security roller shutter is proposed. This will be polyester powder coated. This image here shows an example of what the finished catering pod may look like. As outlined earlier, the application site is located within urban green space. In accordance with the Kirklees local plan, officers have undertaken an assessment to consider whether the circumstances of the proposed development would constitute material considerations, and if so, what weight can be attached to it. Whilst the application is technically a departure from the local plan and therefore contrary to policy LP61, it is considered that there are material considerations which outweigh the development's harm and justify the departure. These include the recognised need for improved facilities at the site to help the operation of North Huddersfield Trust School and to support and further develop the further development of the established school use. In addition, the application site is not currently used for sports or recreation, given its size and location within the school grounds, and it is deemed unlikely that it would ever be used for such uses. Sports England support this view and have raised no objections to this proposal. Officers therefore conclude that the proposals are acceptable on this occasion and recommend approval.
Right, is that your first presentation? Yeah. Brilliant, well done. Right, there's no speakers. Councillor Armour.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I agree with the comment in the officer report that there's a very minimal impact on urban green space. Excuse me. In fact, I would say there's really no impact on it. There's no usable urban green space there. I see no problem whatsoever with this application. I'll move the officer recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. My only question is reference to the urban green space. If this sets any sort of precedent for bigger plans elsewhere in future, or is every case taken in isolation? Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Just on that last point, Councillor Thompson, we assess each application on its merits. Obviously, on urban green space, there's a policy there to guide us and make a recommendation, but it is very much on a case-by-case basis. Thank you.
Councillor Bill move the officer recommendation. I second it. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So it's been moved by Councillor Armour, seconded by Councillor Sokol, and it's for approval as outlined in the submitted report. So, Councillor Sokol.
For.
Councillor Crook.
For.
Councillor Patterson.
For.
Councillor Pinnock.
For.
Councillor Thompson.
For.
Councillor Armour.
For.
Councillor Hall.
For.
So unanimous, so the application has been approved.
Right, next item, page 89. This is Somerset Road, Almonbury, and it's John Holmes to present the case.
What I'll do is I'll have these two guys first, then Andrew, and then obviously the final one will be the applicant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. My name is John Holmes, and I'm presenting this application which members have been asked to consider. And it's for a two-storey extension to the side of a recently constructed building which is in use as a vet's. The site is in an area with dwellings to the west of the site and urban green space to the north, east and south. The application is brought to committee at the request of Councillors Cooper and McGuinn, as set out in the published committee report. The site is partially allocated as urban green space in the Kirklees local plan. This slide shows the existing... This slide shows the existing site and the location of the proposed development. And that's shown here, this area hatched yellow. And the area hatched in green shows a small part which is urban green space allocation. This slide shows the front and rear elevations of the building. And this is the front elevation here of the extension. And it's got an open-sided lower section to it, and the first floor which should be used for additional floor space and consulting rooms. This slide shows the side elevation and also the side of the existing building. This is the building itself when viewed from Somerset Road, and the proposal would be going into this section of the site here. Apologies, my IT seems to be running a bit slowly. This is the side elevation of the existing building, and this photograph's taken from a footpath which runs to the east of the site. And I'll be coming on to further slides which relate to traffic regulation order issues, which I'll go into more details shortly. So, members have a full report in front of them which sets out 34 representations have been received. In summary, they set out concerns relating to the impact of the development upon parking, access and highway safety, impact from artificial lighting, as well as the visual impact of the development. Consultation has been undertaken, as detailed within the report, with consultees confirming they have no objections, subject to conditions. The proposal would see development undertaken within part of the site which forms part of a wider urban green space allocation. As set out in the report, this area of land is not realistically usable by the public, and in this case it's concluded that material considerations are present which indicate that a departure from the development plan is a reasonable and acceptable approach in this case. In relation to the design of the extension, it's considered that the development would be of a size and scale that would read as a contemporary designed addition which suitably complements the design ethos of the existing building. A condition requiring the materials of construction to be those as set out in the submitted plans is recommended. The proposal is not considered to be of a size and scale that would detrimentally impact on the residential amenity of neighbouring residents, and subject to inclusion of a condition requiring artificial lighting to be agreed by the LPA, the proposal is considered acceptable in this regard. Turning to highways matters, lengthy discussions have taken place in relation to the impact of the proposal on access and highway safety, and in particular in relation to parking. The outcome of the discussions is that suitable mitigation can be secured by financial contribution towards a traffic regulation order, as well as condition requiring a travel plan to be agreed. A traffic regulation order is currently in draft format, and this slide shows the draft of the traffic regulation order. And the areas highlighted in yellow could be double yellow line parking restrictions, and the area light blue could be an area for permit parking for residents, with the potential for this to be extended to the area highlighted in green. There's also a double yellow line parking restriction proposed further east of the site as well, which is shown on this slide. A contribution would be secured as part of any grant of planning permission and would be attributable to the continuation of the TRO, which is currently in draft form. The implementation of the TRO would be subject to local consultation, although it's noted there is some local resident support for such a measure in this case. In conclusion, the proposal is considered to have a minor impact in relation to the partial allocation of the site within urban green space, and subject to conditions is considered to be acceptable in relation to other matters as set out in the report. Approval is therefore recommended. Thank you, Chair.
I'll bring David in. It's just to do with, I've just been asking about a question relating to a 106 payment for any roadworks. Anyway, David's got an explanation.
Thank you, Chair. Just in terms of your report before you, members, you'll see the recommendation, and it is stated later on in the report the amount that would be contributed in terms of section 106, but it's £5,200 and it should be in the recommendation actually. But that's just to reiterate for your information. Thank you, Chair.
Right. David? We've got 4 speakers. First speaker is Bryn Mawr.
Is that it? Right, okay. Thank you. Thank you for listening to my submission. My name is Bryn Mawr, and I'm a resident of Longley Road. I live at 6 Longley Road, and I have lived there for almost 5 years. My objection to the proposed extension to the veterinary hospital has as its starting point a comment from the report by Chris Bembridge for Highways Development Management that such a development, and I quote, will increase trips to the site and when added to the existing issues and concerns caused by the site would add a cumulative effect to the problems experienced in the immediate area. I submit that the car parking situation in the immediate area is already more than problematic. Concentrated double parking on both sides of Longley Road, which is a bus route and a school bus route, as well as on Broadgate and other roads, creates a safety hazard by blocking sight lines in both directions for vehicles coming from drives into the roads. I'll depart from my script just at this point briefly. As I was coming to this meeting, as I drove out of my drive, my sight line to the right was blocked for about 70 or 80 yards, slightly less blocked to the left. As I drove out, I could see no cars coming. I happened to glimpse in the window of a car parked opposite, a car coming down the road, which enabled me to stop because otherwise there could have been a collision. I'm fearful that there will be a collision. In that particular case, ironically, the double parking probably saved me, but it doesn't indicate the kind of problem that does exist on that road. I'll continue with my script. Houses on Somerset Road have no drives and need car parking spaces outside their houses for their own cars. I note in the original application for the building of the veterinary hospital, approval for the plans was given on the condition that, and again I quote, the spaces in the car park would be adequate for the number of staff and clients proposed within the application. Since the hospital opened in 2019, there have never been enough spaces. A travel plan has been put forward by Highways which contains several positive suggestions, but I am not persuaded this will result in any significant alleviation of the car parking problem. The requirement to manage parking within parking bays on Somerset Road and possibly to provide some permit parking on that road may help some Somerset Road residents.
Could you wrap up, please? That's 3 minutes.
Pardon?
You've had 3 minutes.
Right, okay.
Speaker is Paul Sumner.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here today representing residents of Somerset Road, immediately town side of the Longley Road roundabout and Donaldson Vets. I'm a resident for 24 years. I've never objected to the original planning application, but did supply comments on concerns related to ecology, environment and highways. We object to the latest expansion proposals. So let's start by taking you back to the original application, including a planning statement which outlined the following. Donaldson's talk of the growing business and outgrowing the Maple Street Hospital, and they talk about the car park being one of those restrictions. They had 45 staff. Moving to larger facilities at Somerset Road would create an additional 8 full-time and 4 part-time, 57 in total. So to my first point, is the current website lists 100 people based out of the Somerset Road facility, nearly double that originally outlined. The supporting 27 transport statement quotes National Planning Policy Framework and promote making the fullest possible use of public transport, walking and cycling. It states the proposed development will have a negligible effect on traffic movements and will benefit residential amenity by removing overspill parking from adjacent areas, adding good quality facilities for travel by other modes, and single occupancy car trips. Therefore, my second point to you, a statement we now know to be wide of the mark considering the latest travel plan includes a survey identifying 67 of 72 surveyed commute by single occupancy car journey. The transport statement outlined for veterinary type uses, the Kirklees guidance suggests a maximum provision of 4 spaces per consulting room, 1 space per doctor or equivalent and 1 space per 3 staff. Also, the proposals will provide 6 consulting rooms with up to 10 vets and circa 27 staff, therefore the 43 spaces advised. We believe approximately half a dozen staff, give or take, are allowed to park on the site. Therefore, the highways impact. It leads me to my third point. If we use their own transport statement and policy guidance and compare this to the proposed additional consulting rooms from 6 to 10, this would require an increase of 16 number car park spaces. Highways impact. Residents' experience to the public highways impact has been of an ever-growing and neglected problem over the past 4 years. In the original transport statement again, given the scale and location of the site and low levels of traffic on Somerset Road, we believe the impact of traffic generated on the local highway network will be minimal. Speaking on behalf of residents on Somerset Road, many of whom have limited or no access to off-street parking due to the nature of dwellings, this has caused pressure on the limited highways parking areas. Throughout the days until mid-evening, often beyond residents' working day, the area has been largely occupied by staff parking off-site. Various engagement with staff and Donaldson's management around exercising neighbourly consideration with parking has until very recently, been ignored. One resident has gone to the extent at great personal expense to put in off-street parking.
You wrap up, please.
So my final point, if I could just finish my final point. So my fourth and fifth points was residents strongly disagree with the position to link it to the planning application, the TRO. It should be in place now. And my fifth point to you objectively is that the survey that's been done is based on 2 site visits. Residents have submitted objections, the 36 objections mentioned, 34, sorry, to the proposal. We dispute it. It's certainly not the residents' experience that have lived with the public highways impact 365 days a year and for 4 years. So we would ask that you take this into consideration. Donaldson's comply with the Kirklees planning policy original. Kirklees consult residents and implement public highways control. Right. The planning committee take note of the planning highways. Thank you.
Next is Councillor Cooper.
Okay. So I think it's fair to say that in the Broadgate, Longley, Somerset Road area, that this is the largest part of our councillor casework load is the traffic issues that people have been experiencing on Broadgate, Somerset Road and Longley Road. And the issues are, as we've heard, parking on the corners, on the junctions, near the bus stop around Longley Road and Broadgate, in the Broadgate junctions with Somerset Road. We have issues with, particularly for Somerset Road residents who have no off-street parking, of basically having nowhere to park. We realise that all these things are legal, but they've got to go miles and miles to actually park their vehicles. Well, not miles, but quite a long way. And also the fact that right the way up Longley Road and to an extent Broadgate, there is very inconsiderate parking that goes on up the road there outside people's driveways, making it very difficult for a large number of residents to safely access the road from there with the impact on sight lines, and it's caused a great deal of angst from people about those and about that, and that's well known, and it's been ongoing. Highways originally opposed this application, but have now revised that view. I and many residents believe that this was a mistake, given that parking space will actually be reduced to a small extent on the site. But what they're suggesting to deal with these issues could actually make the problem worse. That's the issue. By actually having possibly permit parking bays, we don't know the full extent of the traffic regulation order, that will mean that residents will be able to park, hopefully, outside a few houses on Somerset Road, and that the issues around the junctions where people have been parking their vehicles on the junctions may well be addressed. What this will actually do is mean that the pressure on parking on Longley Road and on Broadgate will increase, and that it will be more difficult there'll be more impact with more traffic anyway in those areas having an impact on parking. So the traffic regulation order that's here about having a workplace employee travel plan, I think members here who've seen these things in the past will have a certain degree of scepticism about those. Yes, it's right that we try and encourage people to use public transport, but services are becoming less well funded. Yes, it's right that we try and get people to use cycling and cycling provision, but the support for active travel, as we know in this council, is actually diminishing as well. So we're asking for a workplace employee travel plan, but it's unlikely to be that effective. So what we do know that from this application is that it is likely to make the parking situation for much worse on Longley Road and Broadgate, and to an extent on Somerset Road as well. So the application will be detrimental. And so for those reasons, I think we ought to agree with the original Highways Officer's assessment that was against this application and refuse it on those grounds.
Final speaker on this application is Martin Patterson.
Thank you, Chair. Donaldson's Vets are a local independently owned veterinary practice, and we've been operating for over 120 years, serving the needs of farm, equine and domestic pet owners across the area. In the last 30 years, the small animal side of the business has grown, and it now accounts for around about 90% of what we do. We have surgeries across Kirklees, Thongsbridge, Birchincliff, Murfield, also over in Sorby Bridge, Shepley, Heckman Wyke and soon to be Penistone. The site we're seeking planning permission for is our RCVS accredited veterinary hospital at Somerset Road. The practice overall employs 180 people. We have around 100 people working at the Somerset Road site. It's important to remember that we're 24-hour, 7-day-a-week business, so those number of people are not on site at any one time. It is a centre of excellence for orthopaedic, spinal surgery, animal rehabilitation and cancer treatment, and Somerset Road is the only 24-hour emergency veterinary hospital in Huddersfield. Donaldson's works alongside several charities, local and national, RSPCA, Cat Protection, Mountain Rescue, Meltham Wildlife, Kirkwood Hospice, to name a few. We also work alongside local schools, colleges, youth groups, West Yorkshire Police and the veterinary schools. We support and sponsor local agricultural shows, and we're involved in filming of Channel 5's The Yorkshire Vet, where we promote the local area. In short, we're the kind of business that Huddersfield needs and Kirklees Council should support. The hospital at Somerset Road opened in August 2019, where we provide dedicated support for animals since that time. Since COVID, our work patterns have changed with more intensive medical and surgical cases and clients requiring more time in the consulting room. Our workload is dictated by the number of ill animals in the area, not by the availability of consulting rooms. And we found that clients' waiting times have increased due to congestion waiting for consulting rooms. This leads to a less than optimal service for our clients, longer average visit times per client, and increased pressure on the car park. We are aware of issues which have been previously raised by local residents in terms of car parking on the public highway around the surgery. We employed a specialist highways consultant to review the existing condition and advise on the impact of the proposed extension as part of the planning application, which is before you today. Our consultant has undertaken detailed consultation with Kirklees Council highways officers, and positive dialogue has resulted in the application being recommended for approval, subject to the submission of a travel plan and the conclusion of the Section 106 agreement to control parking on the public highway, which is close to our site, an agreement which we entirely agree with. We're asking for a very small extension to the ground floor area, around about 5% of the floor area of the existing building, which would give us a net gain of 4 consulting rooms, allow us to improve our service to clients and improve the general flow through the rest of the building. We have engaged with local councillors, local residents groups. I have an email trail dating back 3 years where I attempted to set up a meeting with local residents. Fortunately, that has happened finally recently, but it has proved difficult to arrange that through local councillors. Our development would have a negligible visible impact, but allow us to continue to serve our clients, the pet-owning residents of Huddersfield.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Before I go over to members, Adam, have you got anything to add about the traffic situation, or do you want to wait and see what councillors have got to say? Yeah.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yeah, Adam Darwin, Highway Development Management. Just in terms of the proposal, as has just been said, it's going to increase the floor areas by about 5%. There's not anticipated to be an increase in staffing numbers, so whilst we acknowledge there are existing staff that are parking on street, we don't anticipate the development is gonna increase demand on street. Now, clearly there is problems already near the junctions in terms of parking, but the TRO would address that issue. Hence now that contribution's been accepted, that's the reason why we've removed our objection.
Councillor Pinnock.
Just a question to start with, and it concerns the traffic regulation order. And this bears to some extent on what Councillor Cooper was saying. If we ban parking by putting double yellow lines, then, as he indicated, this might, well, probably will, push the problem somewhere else. Either further down Somerset Road or further up Somerset Road and further into the other roads. If people can't park near the junction, they'll park further away. To what extent do you think this is not solving the problem but just moving it somewhere else?
Yeah, through you. Well, the greatest concern about the parking issues are the safety aspects of it. So it's the parking on and around the junctions that's affecting visibility, obstructing the bus route, and obstructing traffic at the junctions. So yes, it's acknowledged if we displace the parking from those areas, it would move to other areas and potentially further down Longley Road. But that would be to locations that are not causing the same level of safety problems. So yes, that traffic would move, but hopefully not to locations that are unsafe.
Mohan.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I had the opportunity to visit this building. Actually, I took my daughter because she was taking her cat to there for treatment. And I think I've been twice there, and twice I didn't see any problem parking my own car there. And actually, there were quite a few other spaces over there on that day, yeah? Inside the building, I think it's a well-designed waiting area and the consultant rooms. I noticed there were about 4 or 5 consultant room were in operation that time. Yeah, but there was some waiting over that appointment time. There were some people were waiting, might be 15 minutes, 20 minutes over the appointment time, and I noticed some dog barking there because you can't keep your animals for so long. But what I'm thinking, by increasing the number of those consulted rooms with this extension, make it 10 from 6, yeah, I think it will reduce the waiting time for the customer over there. With regarding on the parking outside, which is supported with the extension, I don't think the car parking spaces will be reduced. It will stay same as it is now 42. Yeah. So I agree with some objectors. There might be some parking on street parking on nearby, but that's across the road, not on this side, I think, yeah. So I don't know why their staff member or some other, they're going to park on the side street when they have their own spaces inside the building, yeah. So there is some contribution by the applicant regarding travel plan. And I heard from officer, they're going to do the TRO, stop people from parking car over the residential area. But again, we can put some condition on the application. Their staff member should not park any their car on the side road there. That's on cross road, I think. There's not this side building. So on those conditions, I think I'm happy to approve officer recommendation to approve the application. Thank you.
Carol.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I recognise the problem of parking for the residents of the area. It's not, unfortunately, we hear it so many times, don't we? And it's not uncommon anywhere in Huddersfield these days. It would be really good if people would get on their bikes and use their bikes. And if this wasn't on a hill, I might actually suggest that there was a condition that there should be some bike spaces inside the in one of the car parking places. But I'm not sure that we that's necessarily as far as we need to go. But I do think actually if this is not increasing the number of staff, we are just increasing the number of consulting rooms. And I take the point about reducing waiting time, so there may be more customers coming, but there'll be a quicker turnover, and therefore the car park will be used more efficiently. I think the travel plan that is suggested, which can include something about cycling for staff, and the TROs, will actually improve the current situation, not just make sure that the extension won't have a detrimental effect. I think it will improve the current situation, because it is safety that when it comes to TROs and parking on streets, it is the safety, not convenience, that we have to consider first off. And to have double yellow lines around those corners, I know will make all the difference. And if we recognise the local residents' need for parking outside their houses via a permit scheme, then I think, as I say, it will improve the current situation. So I'm happy to either move or second the officer's recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not convinced that we've been given enough information to make a positive response to this. I I hear what local residents say. Now, obviously, they experience what happens there on a much more regular basis than an occasional visitor to the vets. And what they are saying is that there are issues. Clearly, putting double yellow lines around the corners will help with the problem identified by the first speaker that we had. In that cars will not park outside people's drives or very close to them. But as I said earlier in my question, the problem could well be being passed down further down the road to a different group of people. Now, I gather that and I think we noticed there were 18 vacant spaces in the car park when we visited this morning, that the system appears to be that the staff will allocate people a parking space for when they come for their appointment. Therefore, staff will not park in that space. But the staff have got to go and park somewhere. And as I seem to remember from the original application, there was supposed to be adequate parking in the car park, not only for visitors, but also for staff. Quite how that's got out of hand, I'm not sure, because I'm assuming that it was assessed at the time of the first application that that number of parking spaces would be adequate. I suppose I'm inviting a comment as to how that's happened. But I'm not totally convinced that we've got the answer, because as has been said by one or two speakers, the problem by having a TRO is moved somewhere else, and I think we've got to find a more comprehensive solution, which might include trying to get more parking spaces on the site, which some of us did have a look at to see whether there was room to create one or two more spaces. So I'll leave it at that.
Councillor Armour.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've got reservations about this. It does actually, to my mind, call into question to some extent the wisdom of putting a commercial operation in this area, but that's ancient planning history now, so that's been done. It's an issue that is a problem. It's a well-established company. I accept that it's a good advertisement for its industry, a good advertisement for Kirklees and indeed Huddersfield. I do accept that. I also accept that residents have very, very severe problems at times, and I think we're all concerned about road safety issues. We see it a lot, and it is a matter of concern. I don't think I can support the application at the moment, but neither do I think I should resist the application. So I'm talking myself into an abstention here, Mr. Chairman.
I think it's a difficult one. It's just like we get outside schools. You could have armed police walking up and down pavements, and if people want to park there, they will. It's no matter what you do, yellow lines, doubles, whatever. It has been moved by Councillor Patterson.
I got Councillor Sokol moved it and Councillor Patterson seconded it. Is that correct? Yeah.
Right.
I do have a query, Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just really, I just wanted some clarity, because Councillor Sokol, you mentioned about a condition in relation to the controlling staff parking, and I just wanted, if possible, officers to just give some clarity in terms of where we go with that particular request.
Can I make it a bit more clear?
Yeah.
Councillor Andrew Pinnick said the car parking might be booked for the appointment, those people. I don't think so, because I've been twice there recently, early this year. We were not allocated any car park spaces inside there. We just went there. So the staff should have a right to park their car inside the yard there. Thank you.
Yeah, one of the conditions that's recommended is for a travel plan condition, and that would basically entail the Donaldson's vets explaining to us how they're managing staff parking. We couldn't put an explicit condition on that says staff can't park on a public highway because it wouldn't be enforceable or reasonable, but it is covered in a condition that's already recommended, which is the travel plan condition.
So it's been, Matthias. Yeah.
Just be quick, because
it's still not totally clear.
Yeah, I think that I get that, and I've listened closely to the speakers, members, and my team. So it feels like you've got a planning situation where you've got a very successful business that's hoping to expand, got a set of parking spaces that are well used, and then there's overspill parking. The test you have to ask yourself is it a severe impact on highway safety with this overspill parking? And the TRO solution that you saw on the plan seems to ameliorate that to an important level, getting it away from the junction. It will displace the parking, as you've debated that. But I don't think the question is it displaced? It's about how do you quantify the harm to that? And can you actually evidence and substantiate it? I think that's a tricky argument for you to be able to do successfully. Therefore, it feels like if you've got an existing problem that you're facing at the minute and you've got a solution in front of you, you as decision makers need to weigh the benefit of, will this create an improved situation or not? Then after that, is there a significant highway harm left over? I think that's a difficult one to get to. But the question in my mind is, will the TRO, the travel plan that John and Adam have taken you through, and the way that the vet practice operates, improve the situation or not? And you as decision makers need to come to that conclusion. But I don't think you can tell, as John said, you can't tell staff they can't park on a public highway, but we can at least know what their movement patterns are, how the car park's being managed, something about parking, cycle parking, as Councillor Patterson alluded to, promoting all those public transport initiatives. And then we can have some targets within that travel plan to actually encourage a bit of a modal shift. So what you're getting with this planning decision, if you make it, is more control than perhaps exists in the current situation, which causes issues for residents already. So I hope that's helpful. Over to you, members. Thank you, Chair.
So it seems to me as though travel plan, it will make things better in the immediate vicinity, i.e. putting double yellow lines down. Like how else, it'll push a problem somewhere else. But I'm happy for a vote to be taken on this now. Anybody? Right, we'll go to a vote. It has been moved. It has been seconded.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So, yes, just to confirm, it's been moved by Councillor Sokol, seconded by Councillor Patterson. It's for approval as outlined in the report, and obviously, Councillor Sokol, the travel plan will include that element around staff parking. Right, so on that basis, Councillor Sokol?
For.
Councillor Crook?
For.
Councillor Patterson?
For.
Councillor Pinnock?
Abstain.
Councillor Thompson?
For.
Councillor Armour?
Abstain.
Councillor Hall?
For.
Okay, so that's 5 voted for, 2 abstentions, so the application has been approved.
Right. That is it for today.